Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD Podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, welcome back to another episode of the EntreMD Podcast. Now, I just remembered something that happened to me. This must have been 8 or 9 years ago. At this point, I had just finished residency. I had started my first job as a big boss attending, and I was living the life. But I remember going like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. So I tell my husband, I have the job. And at that time I had one kid and the kid, and it's so busy, and then church and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he looks at me and, my husband's my mentor. So he's like light years ahead of me as far as all these things go. And he's like, you know what? I hate to break this to you, but this is the freest you'll ever be. I'm like, what? The freest I'll ever be? Like, if I get any busier, I'm just going to roll up and die. I can't take this anymore. I'm so busy. And now I look back on those times and I was like, wow, imagine all the free time I had, right? Because at that point, I didn't have any businesses, right? So now I have multiple businesses. Then I had one child. Now I have 4 children. And and there's so much more stuff I'm doing. The church was an itty bitty church at the time. It was just a church plant. And now it's, 4 campuses and all that stuff. And yes, so I look back on those times, and that was the freest time I ever had. And I look back on one of the things I'm like, I wish I valued the time better and I used it better. I don't think I used it too badly, but I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness. And now at the time of this recording, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of us have extra time. And I want you to be able to look at the extra time that you have years from now and go like, I am so glad I used my time the way I did. So today I want us to talk about the biggest mistake you can make with the gift of time. And the biggest mistake you can make is wasting it, right? Sometimes we don't think about time like a resource. We just think it's a thing. But the truth is that it's a resource that's more valuable than money. How do I know that? Because if you lose money, you can get it back. If you lose time, it's gone forever. So it's a more valuable resource than money. So you have options. You can invest it or you can waste it. You can live in cruise control, or you can use your time strategically, okay? And you might go like, I have to plan for everything. Yeah, I mean, even your leisure time should be leisure time on purpose. Not that, I woke up, I didn't quite know what to do, so then I binged on Netflix for 6 hours. This needs to be scheduled, okay? All right, so you will run out of time eventually, right? You will get older. You want to invest your time. you're in a time where maybe you have more time and you're in the middle of a pandemic, and you're going to get to a time where you're going to be busy again, where it's going to be really, really, really busy. So you want to look back and go like, man, I used that time, right? I used that time and I used it well. So I want you to think about this time we're in the COVID-19 era. I want you to think about it like planting season, right? We're planting, and the post-COVID-19 era is going to be harvest. So what you're going to get at that time, where your life is going to be at that time, what your business will look like at that time, is tied to what you're doing right now. What you put in your time now will determine what you'll get out of it later. Okay. So I want you to look at the time you have as a gift. Now, I'm not belittling how you got the gift, right? So how you got the gift may be painful. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe your hours were reduced. Maybe you're in private practice and your volumes are down. So now you have more time. Maybe your kids who used to be competitive athletes, right, they can't do any sports now. So all that time you invested in that you're not using that time for that. Maybe you used to fly around the country speaking and doing stuff, working for your company or whatever. But now you're home, right? So maybe it's not the best of ways, but the method by which you got the time may be no fun, but it doesn't change the fact that the time is still a gift. Okay. So this is more of a balance thing. We're not going to talk only about business, but the truth of the matter is that, our life affects our business and our business affects our lives. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So there are 5 areas where I really want you to invest your time strategically now that you have extra time. Okay. The first area is your family, right? There have been studies and studies and studies on people who are about to die and all that stuff. And usually they're not saying, man, I wish that I finished that business deal. Man, I wish I had closed one more contract. Man, I wish I had an extra location in my practice. That's typically not what they're saying. Usually they're wishing they invested more time with their kids. They're wishing they built better relationships. They're wishing that maybe somebody that they had issues with, they had mended those fences. So now that you have the gift of time, it's a great time to work on your family relationships, your spouse, your kids, your cousins, maybe people you're not in speaking terms with. Maybe you've been the person who's worked so hard that you really haven't had that quality time with your kids. Everybody else was watching them except you. Maybe you get to teach them to ride a bike. Maybe you get to talk to them about their friends and what's going on with them and stuff like that. Maybe you get to do family dinners finally together. Maybe those things are happening, right? But I want you to invest time in your family. Maybe you don't remember the last time you went on a date night with your spouse. And date night doesn't mean you have to be in a restaurant. You guys can go on a long ride or a long walk and talk. In fact, don't tell anybody this, but my husband and I, we have a date night. It's every Tuesday. Everybody knows that. Nobody calls me on Tuesdays, okay? Or him. But now, and then, sometimes we go to restaurants, it could be anything. It could be a long walk. It could be we walk to Yogurtland and get yogurt. It could be anything. But now what we started doing is we take dinners and then we go in front of restaurants that we like. They're all closed, right? And we just sit there and eat. And, where did you have date night? Oh, yeah, we went to the Four Seasons, but they were closed. But we're out there and, we made it happen. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you do have to spend the time. Okay. So that's the first one's family. The second one is health. And, there is this saying that we spend all our youth trying to get money. And once we get that money, we spend all the money trying to get back our health, right? But now you have the gift of time. So maybe you should be walking every day and you haven't been. Now you have the time to. Maybe you used to love running. Maybe it's time to go get that back. Maybe you couldn't meal prep because you didn't have time. Now you have time and the restaurants are closed. So it's kind of making you do it, right? This is the time that you can invest in your health. Maybe you can get to that point where you feel a lot better. Maybe you were the person who slept 4 hours and maybe now you can finally sleep for 8 hours. You'll feel so much better. Okay. So invest in your health, invest that time in your health. So at the end of the pandemic, you can come out, with a clearer mind because you've been sleeping better mood, better feelings because you've been exercising. Maybe you shed a couple of pounds, maybe you grow some muscle. Invest the time in your health. Okay. The third area is your business. And this is a beautiful time to invest in your business, invest in yourself as an entrepreneur, invest in, maybe there are parts of your business you're like, ugh, I don't want to talk about it. Maybe things like marketing and doing videos and leading your team and delegating and all of these things. Maybe there are things that you're just like, ugh, don't want to do them. Now is a perfect time to learn those skills. Now is a perfect time to start practicing those skills. Now is a perfect time. So take advantage of it and invest the time, okay? And one of the things that you can do to invest in yourself is that you can invest in education. Every business skill is learnable, okay? For EntreMD, the way we are supporting physician entrepreneurs is that we're offering everybody the Freedom Formula Masterclass. We are offering it at 50% the normal investment to give you an environment where you can get direction, where you can get roadmaps, where you can get shortcuts, where you can have a community of fellow physician entrepreneurs who are in the grind and who believe that they should be investing this time in making themselves better entrepreneurs and putting their business in a position to thrive in spite of the pandemic. Okay, so you can check it out, entremd.com/freedom. And the code you want to enter to get 50% off your investment is podcast. Okay, so that's specifically for the podcast listeners. So you do want to invest time in your business. All right. The fourth area you want to invest time is in your legacy. And I know this may sound a little bizarre, but one of the exercises that I engage in is taking a moment to write what I want read at my funeral. Okay. I know it sounds weird, but the truth of the matter is someday all of us are going to die. Right. And I want to be in control of that narrative. So I would write, pick an age, 90, 110, whatever. And I'm like, this is the kind of person I was, and this is how my family perceived me, and this is the kind of relationship I had with them. And I write about the different kind of people I helped, the number of doctors that I helped, like the whole 9 yards. It's all there. And what that does is that it gives you a different perspective on life, because now you're like, wait, if I really want them to read all that in 50 years, then I better get to work. I might be behind the curveball, so it puts you in that kind of mode. So the question is, after you write that, what do you want? It's an indicator of what you want your legacy to be. Now, this time that you have time is a great time to start working on that legacy. What do I want it to be? Start working on it. Okay. So for me, I know that one of the things I want to do is I want to be able to touch 100,000 doctors, help them build businesses, help them think differently, help them build empires, help them get those things in them out. Because, business is not something we're trained for. In fact, I think our training makes us anti-business in a way, right? But I want to help them. I want to help as many as possible. So if that's the case, one of the things I should be doing in this era is doing more to help, which I've done. Okay. That's one of my legacies. There's so many others, and I'm working on them in this time. So what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want read at your funeral? Take a portion of that and start working on it now. Now, the fifth area is your faith. And you may or may not be a person of faith, so just hear me out, right? For me, at the end of the day, I think we're going to have to meet our maker. And for me, my relationship with God, my understanding of his word so that I can stay centered is really important to me. And one of the things that I'm doing in this time is I'm investing more time in prayer. I'm investing more time in reading the Bible. I'm investing more time in meditating and all of those things because it is important to me. My spirituality is very, very important to me. So that's an area to invest in. Right? It's an area to invest in. So I want you to look at these 5 areas, and I want you to then look at this time and look at the gift of your extra time as what it is. It is a gift, right? It is a gift. And I want you to appreciate the gift and then invest the time properly. So you can look back. I need you to imagine looking back after this pandemic, after everything that happens, and you say these words. I've been saying this since the beginning. I was like, I never, ever, 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 as long as I live, want to see another pandemic. But in that time, I wouldn't trade that time that I had in 2020 for anything. Imagine being in a position where you can say it, okay? So I want you to flip this switch on how you look at time, and I want you to become intentional in how you use it. I want you to throw away the pity parties, the victim mentality. Throw it away because it is so expensive. We can't afford to do that. It is so expensive. You throwing a pity party, you doing Netflix binges, you just whining and complaining. What that does is that you are choosing to sacrifice what you could get if you invest this time. You're choosing to sacrifice that. Like, no, I don't want my relationship with my family to be better. I don't want my health to be better. I don't want my business to be better. I don't want to be a better entrepreneur. I don't want to leave a legacy, and I don't care about my faith. That's what you say when you're throwing a pity party. Now, having said that, if you need to throw a 5-minute pity party, please throw a party, but it needs to be 5 minutes. And then you get back to this, okay? So throw away the pity party. The opportunity cost of it is just too high. Okay, I want us all to come out on the other side of this saying, never want to see it again, but that was the best time. That was the best time for my family. That was the best time for my health. I mean, I literally changed my life. Okay. All right. So let's do it. So those are your 5 areas. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to share this podcast, and I want you to go start taking action and investing in your time. Okay. And I am going to see you on the very next episode of the EntreMD podcast. Until then, bye-bye. If you love this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, share, and review it on iTunes. As you go about your week, remember, you're not just an MD, you're an EntreMD. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode. Until next time.